Hello everyone, this is part 1 of What If Naruto Was Trained by the Nine-Tailed Fox. This story is made by Mirage1, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Naruto quietly, carefully, so as not to give away that he was yet alive and, somewhat, well to anyone who might still be close. Rubbing his head gingerly, he slowly propped himself up against a conveniently placed tree in the silent forest. He groaned quietly again. Why were the villagers so? His 6-year-old brain failed to conjure an adjective potent enough to describe the villagers' hatred. But nevertheless, why? Why carry him on his way home from ramen and take him to the empty forest? Why beat the poor boy bruised and be, those cold eyes ever watching, within inches of his pathetically lonely life? Then leave him in the dark of the misty forest, telling him not to dare come back to the village. Tears leaked over Naruto's faux-whiskered cheeks. Why? Perhaps it would be better to just do as the villagers said, in agony like the demon they said he was, and do everyone, especially the old man, a favor. Old man Hokage, who was always trying to protect him from the hatred of the villagers, the cold eyes, and the snide comments, but too busy to do so every waking moment. But if Naruto disappeared, never existed, he would be out of old man Hokage's hair. Or what was left of it. Perhaps. Thou hast not lived, why shouldst thou perish so? Naruto started quickly, his eyes darting about for the deep yet comforting voice, finding nothing. Wah! The 6-year-old murmured as he pushed away from the tree to climb to his feet. I hate thee Kyubi no Kitsune, Kittling. Thou hast fallen into the abysmal pit of despair, hast thou not? Thou shalt listen not to the belittlement of thine fellow citizens. Naruto blinked in confusion of these words, hardly making out many of them in the first place. Who's there? Naruto called into the dark nervously. Out of habit, the boy began his usual, why you should know, I'm Uzumaki Naruto, the future Hokage of Konoha, so. Hark! The voice interrupted loudly. None but mine own ears know these words so well. Mine poor, beautiful ears, hast listened to these words many times over, since thou had the wondrous fancy to become this Hokage of idiots. Fortune's full, I must be. The musical voice paused, then began again, but this time teasingly, thou must have the intelligence of 1,000 fools. Again, I hate thee Kyubi no Kitsune. Kyubi. Naruto sputtered, his eyes darting round frantically as his young mind realized, I hate thee, was the equivalent of, my name is. But the Kyubi was by. That one Gu Yondaime. How could he be here? And where the hell was he? Wasn't he supposed to be, like, 1 billion feet tall? To the blonde's surprise, deep laughter filled his mind. Thine imagination flies over the clouds above. Fortunately for me and mine, I was not, but sealed into thine own stomach, for thou is a vessel. Thine Yondaime Hokage hadst not the strength to defeat me, so sealed mine mind and power in thee. Kyubi chuckled. If mine height hadst been 1 billion feet, I had been the sky itself, foolish Kittling. No, the king of frogs defeats me in mass easily. You can hear me thinking. Then, yes, Kittling, I reside within thee. And for appearance of sanity, if only appearance is sake, Kyubi chuckled teasingly at this, thou shouldst speak to me only within thine own mind. Naruto plopped back down to the ground, stunned at this news. The greatest of all demons was sealed inside him, talked like a weirdo, at this Kyubi protested animatedly, and apparently wasn't the evil thing everyone took him for. So, all of this time, everyone called me a demon and a monster and looked at me mean. Because of you, the poor boy said carefully. And my deepest apologies for it, Kittling. Thou hast lived through many evils, because of me, and I shall make it up to thee. Make it up to. Thou harps continuously of thine fancy to become acknowledged. I shall guide thee to that goal, and beyond. As I was king of the demons, thou shalt be king of the shinobi, stronger than any and all. I shall also have a strong vessel in mind and body, thus I am fortunate and content. As long as thou voweth to create a new name for fox demons, I shall aid thee. I fear I have created a rather nasty reputation for us foxes. Naruto could just imagine the smile on Kyuubi's face as his own grew to monstrous proportions. So you'll teach me a bunch of jutsu and I'll be all strong. The blonde was nearly dancing with excitement and Kyuubi merely chuckled at the boy's antics. Thou hast the all-powerful Kyuubi no Kitsune at thine disposal and all thou can thinketh of a jutsu. What a piece of work is man. Kyuubi chuckled once again. Think, Kittling, for any powerful being must have a clear mind to use its power with. Before thou can start any kind of training, thou must think everything through. Well, give me my robe and put on my crown. He paused. How do I know you're not trying to trick me? Be not afraid of greatness. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. The fox said wisely. Naruto pondered for a moment and slowly agreed. So, that means I have to go back to my apartment to get supplies? Queried Naruto. Kyuubi merely made a happy affirmation, as the blonde silently wondered why he wouldn't need rest first. Last he had been aware, jumping back to reality for a moment, Naruto stretched, happy to find his W gone and not the least bit sore from it. Kyuubi no Kitsune's power already at work, he guessed. Near skipping in excitement, Naruto made his way to Konoha's gates in earnest. A mere half-hour ago, he had been drowning in despair to the point of death from the village's treatment and lack of love. No one, not his newly appointed academy teacher Iruka-sensei, not his caretaker, not the villagers, and hardly even old man Hokage even gave him a second glance, and when they did, it was hardly a happy experience. And yet, in all of the darkness, a light shined through, a beacon of hope, for someone had cared enough of his well-being. How odd it was though, that this light had been within him from the beginning. And how odd that his light wasn't even human, but a demon, supposed to be evil and condemning, while the humans around him hated him like a demon would hate a human. Rather ironic. Kyuubi merely chuckled quietly at his 6-year-old vessel's musing, wondering how such an obnoxious child could be so insightful and wise. Lost in thought, Naruto nearly missed the fact that he was arriving at the gates, but he did notice the guards visibly stiffen as he came into view. He recognized a familiar high ponytail and dark scar across the nose of one of the group, and his shoulders sunk a little. Approaching, the guards quickly moved into his path, though Iruka a little more hesitantly. As the vessel tried to move around them, they merely blocked his way once more. Hey, are you guys gonna let me in or what? The 6-year-old cried loudly at the guards. Silence, little demon spit. You will treat your betters with respect. One guard retorted, backhanding Naruto. The boy stumbled to keep balance, but fell in the end. Patience, Kittling. Thou shalt not rush to battle so quickly. Kyuubi said calmly, fighting to calm the raging boy. Shouldst thou throw thine self to this Chunin and merely be beaten into embarrassment for the attempt? No, the boy grudgingly replied. But what do we do now? I can't get to my apartment for supplies. HNMMM. Thou might think, oh villain, villain, smiling, damned villain, but this may work to our advantage, Kittling. Merely turn and walk back into the forest. There we shall commence survival training. Naruto could practically see Kyuubi's grin. Though the vessel was not one to make an abrupt exit, kicking a large amount of dirt and adding an obscene gesture was enough for him. Little did the guards and Iruka know, it was the last they would see of the demon spit for a long while. Naruto sighed as he stalked through the bright, yet misty forest. 3.5 months had passed since Kyuubi lightened the boy's life with glee, and the fox was quite. Interesting. Hearing this, the praise-happy demon practically purred. Much had happened over those 3.5 months, much to the pleasure of the vessel, from learning to survive in the forest, though, he had a lot of help, to learning to control chakra for simple jutsu such as henge, which came in handy for the aforementioned survival. He wasn't even sure how far he had strayed from Konoha, but from what he remembered, wherever he was now, was much colder and wetter than Konoha ever was. Unfortunately, his clothes had quickly become worn and torn and, definitely not wanting to run around in the nude in the cold weather, had put his knowledge to the test to catch rabbits and other small game, and even a bear once, when he had gotten lucky, for clothing and such. Speaking of rabbits, Naruto silently slunk forward, his target happily munching away at some new spring buds. Unfortunately, the wind shifted unexpectedly and his downwind advantage was lost. He was good, but not great. With a twitch of its nose, the rabbit bolted forward with a kick. Right into the awaiting jaws of a red fox. Once again Naruto sighed, but this time at the irony. Oh well, he'd live on the rest of his rations for a little while longer. Again, as he began to turn, leaving the young vixen to its meal, he paused at the sound of a light yip. As the fox began to talk, the vessel could only pick out a few words, so he grudgingly gathered a small amount of Kyuubi's chakra to his ears. The more he gathered it to understand other foxes, the less he had to use it, but was still rather annoying to do. Thou hast cornered mine food for me, saving the trouble of catching it. As thanks, surely thou would like to share mine den for the night. At this, Naruto's eyes shot open to the size of saucers. Oh no, 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 no. I'm too young for that. Pervert. To his surprise, the vixen's jaw dropped with a hissing laughter. Thou must have the intelligence of 1,000 fools. Mine mate would happily maim if he found me with another fox. Even one as handsome as you, the vixen said with a purr and a flick of her fluffy tail. The 6-year-old blinked and rubbed the back of his head. Regardless of what the fox said, he was in desperate need of a haircut. It was starting to become as wild as the famous Yondaim's porcupine head. No, I merely offer thee a warm dwelling and bed for the night. Naruto gave an embarrassed smile. Quote. Okay, sure, sounds good. With a foxy smile, and a flick of her tail, the vixen bounded off with the rabbit in her mouth. Naruto, not wanting to be left behind, followed quickly. Fortunately, when he fell behind due to thick underbrush or tripped over a root, the fox would slow to a stop and look back, waiting for the clumsy boy to catch up. Finally, they made it to a small cave which the vixen darted into. Naruto followed a little more cautiously. Fortunately for the foxes, it was a rather roomy den, but Naruto, even though he was a rather small 6-year-old, had to duck in. Inside, the vixen dropped the now rather dirty rabbit and yipped a few times. It was quickly replied by a flurry of yelps and growls, unintelligible even to Naruto's chakra-enhanced ears. Then, bounding into what little light there was in the den, came 5 little fox cubs, the 6th lagging behind slightly, but just as happy to see its mother. Peer upon my beautiful cousins. They must be strength incarnate. Kyuubi said proudly, mentally puffing out his chest. Naruto smiled. They looked pretty cute and harmless to him. These are mine kittlings. They're young and speechless yet, so search not for a decent conversation. The vixen explained, gazing lovingly at her children. The vessel grinned at this and held out his hand to the group of brawling fox kits. However, their fight fell to a halt when they noticed the strange, and, from their view, huge creature. Then, the boldest snorted, puffed out its chest and strode forward defiantly, nose held high to sniff the strange beast. It then turned up its nose with a sniff and closed its eyes, only to quickly crouch, and pounce playfully at Naruto's chest. The rest followed quickly, except for one, causing him to tumble backward. The vixen skillfully dodged out of his flight path. Oh, what a work are they! Cried the vixen in dismay, and Naruto merely laughed through the happy tongues licking his face. As he was attacked by these slobbery welcomes, something caught the corner of his eye. There, off to the side, was the 6th fox kit, sitting patiently even with its scrawny build. Considering the size of the other kits, it was most definitely the runt of the litter. Kyuubi's chakra flared of its own accord and was gone as quickly as it came, unnoticed by all but Naruto and the kit. The fox kit nodded knowingly and trotted off to join its siblings in their feast of rabbit. Naruto pondered on this the rest of the night, as the foxes slept, until exhaustion took him. As Naruto woke up, he found the vixen and the cubs in distress. The vixen paced around something, the cubs following closely behind, licking her muzzle in hopes of reassurance but finding none. The yips and barks proceeded in such speed that Naruto could barely make anything out before he gathered some of Kyuubi's chakra to his ears once more. Oh woe me, mine poor kittling. Runt he may be, but he is dying, Inari, dying. Cried the vixen in despair as she paced around the 6th fox kit, who lay limply on the ground. Immediately, Naruto tried to calm her as much as he could, but she heard none of his comforts. As much as he wanted to help the fox kit, he was just beginning training and only knew the fewest jutsu, let alone healing ones. Suddenly, for the second time in under a few hours, Kyuubi's chakra flared without Naruto's control and shot to the fox kit, giving it strength. It shuddered for a moment, and managed to clamber to all fours and bow its head to the vessel. The vixen and remaining fox kits finally stilled, looking stunned. O king of the fox and demons, messenger of Inari, and wise one, I hide thee Tenko, and I consent, said the tiny fox kit. So wise, so young, they say do never live long. Replied Kyubi sadly, unheard by anyone save Naruto. Before the vessel could question the fox's motives, he interrupted with, hark quickly, Kitterling, I long for a body of mine own once again, to live in and to train thee with ease. However, I need consent from thee, for thou hast the choosing word. Thou couldst cancel this at any point, if thou wishes it, and this Kitterling's body would become feeble, weak, and still as death once again. It merely costs a small amount of mind chakra. Kyubi paused, then continued, the majority of mind power would stay with thee, for it takes the littlest amount of will for a being such as myself to move and see through a body. This Kitterling hast made a consent, for he knows he hast little time to live, mentally and physically, so it is now up to thee. Naruto barely gave it a second thought, seeing no consequences. I consent. Immediately, Kyubi's chakra surged from the seal to the fox Kitterling. It merely closed its eyes, exhaled, and then didn't take a breath for a long while, still standing there. It slowly grew in size, to match its siblings in health and plumpness. Then, it inhaled deeply and reopened its eyes to show the fiery red of Kyubi's own eyes, where before they were merely hazily brown. Ah, how wondrous to fill lungs with life-giving air once again. I feel as though I could dance with joy, cried Kyubi from the fox kit's mouth. Naruto laughed loudly. The great Barker Kitsune is the size of a rat. The vessel gave a foxy smile and poked the fox demon in the side, making him topple over. Naruto snickered. Oh woe upon woes, I have been reduced to the size of the smallest kit. I, king of demons. Surely Inari laughs at my misfortune, Kyubi cried in dismay. Naruto's snicker grew to a laugh once again. Tread lightly, Hokage of fools, for I am still king of the fox and can call upon all of mine servants to harass thee for the rest of eternity. The vessel was quickly silenced, and Kyubi gave his own foxy smile of triumph. They may laugh now, but mine puny body shall grow and together we shall create a new name for all fox kind. Naruto's face slowly lit up into a true foxy smile. Yeah, we shall. Over the years, Konoha had, in short, gone to the dogs. The would-be bustling with life streets were and nearly abandoned, save for the handful brave souls who dared venture outside, but even they walked slowly like ones possessed. Wind blew dirt and dust up from the roads to swirl in the lonely air, making the village look a lot like Tsunade village. The buildings looked dirty and old, overall unkempt, even a few windows and doors were boarded up. The street booths, usually used by vendors as they called out to passersby, were pitifully empty, the only thing filling them where fruit would usually be was dust. Konoha could only take so much, and it seemed everything and its uncle had happened to it. It seemed to begin after the celebration of the disappearance of the Kyubi vessel. The village's pleasure and morale shot through the roof those first few months, full of celebration. People began working more, harder, proud to provide for the demon-free village. All was well, for the most part. Then, a small famine, steadily growing, broke out over Fire Country. Crops failed, as did livestock, and food became more and more scarce and many of the poor starved. But Konoha had made it through famine before, and they could do it again. They would just stick through it. But many, without a certain demon vessel to unleash their anger on, the drunks or more spiteful citizens of the village, began to vandalize important officials' houses. People who played important parts in the Kyubi attack, many of these vandals were. They egged homes, broke windows, painted graffiti, and some even went as far as to burn down buildings. However, all was well, for Konoha had the Uchiha police. But, then the infamous Uchiha M took place, depleting one of Konoha's most famous and powerful clans to one official member. With the absence of the police provided by the Uchiha clan, crime rates skyrocketed and faith in the village began to slip. Clans of Konoha, like the Hyuga for instance, began to weed out the weak bee, to make their families stronger, better shinobi, so they might create a stronger village. The Hyuga demoted main house members by the numbers, and evicted masses of branch members. The Inuzuka threw out the weakest of their pack and the Akamaiki banished the least hearty. This outraged the abandoned, and many rioted against their former clans. The remaining clan members strove to be stronger, to fight from being banished, making them cruel-hearted and less loyal to their village. This happened over the span of many years. Many of the young shinobi of the new genin generation worked hard for their clan, many becoming hard and disloyal. They fought for themselves and nothing else. Seemingly the leader of this way of life was the Uchiha survivor, Uchiha Sasuke. Over the years after the he had tried to run from Konoha many times, sometimes going as far as to either people who tried to stop him. It was rumored that the comrade lost in the Wave Country mission his group had been assigned had been killed by him, not enemy shinobi as he claimed. And to add salt to the Third Hokage, fighting hard to regain Konoha's faith and loyalty to their village, fell deathly ill and for these past few months was on his last legs. But he still fought, and found a replacement to grudgingly hold the Godime, a certain Sannin named Tsunade. The new Godime seemed to have as much hope for Konoha as the citizens did, but fought to rejuvenate the village as much as Sandime. But mostly just because Sandime argued with her with all of his remaining energy to quit napping and start helping the village. Reading this, in the old dusty library of Konoha, Uzumaki Naruto had a new respect for Old Man Hokage. Much misfortune has fallen upon this place, commented the little fox kit on his shoulder. Contrary to what Kyubi had said, it appeared he had barely grown at all. Apart from the long Kyubi-like ears and even longer tail, he looked the same. Sure has, replied the vessel with a light, sarcastic, hey, as he put away the outdated newspaper. The library was abandoned, even of librarians, but he didn't want to leave a mess. Both he and Kyubi had returned to the village within that same hour, but had yet to make their way to Hokage Tower. They had both found it wise to catch up on current events first after seeing the desolate village. Cowards they be. Cowards d many times before the deaths. The valiant never taste of death but once, Kyubi scoffed. Naruto frowned. Maybe, he replied as he exited the library, idly fiddling with the heavily weighted silver bracelets on his wrists. His hands being raised opened the front of his brown traveling cloak to show his weighted roan vest and black shirt, both adorned with a dark orange spiral. Done with his fiddling, Naruto shoved his hands into his off-white pants. But they've been through a lot. People can only take so much. Kyubi merely, harumph, and jumped from the vessel's shoulder to trot by his side at his feet. As they made their way to Hokage Tower, they gained a few second or third glances, mostly of fear, even before the passerby noticed the fox, then it usually turned to terror. Strangers in Konoha usually meant trouble, and ones dressed like shinobi in traveling cloaks usually meant missing nin, which indicated very dangerous trouble. And to top it all off, the appearance of foxes more often than not brought anger, and most recently, fear. This made Kyubi growl. Naruto casually glanced around with resigned interest as they walked, or in Kyubi's case, with his short legs, trotted. He hadn't been to Konoha for years, and though he left on bad terms, he still had the strong loyalty to the village flowing through his veins. No matter what, he would always love his village. Though it was hilarious to see the gate guards recognize him when he originally approached. Now that had been a sight. The vessel blinked, then gave an embarrassed smile as he spotted his old apartment. It looked as though the windows had been smashed, boarded up, and smashed once again, and graffiti covered every inch, painted many times over. The door had obviously been kicked in. It still lay on the ground. Still walking, he finally made it to Hokage Tower and, unlike the rest of the town, the inside was bustling with movement and life. Workers scurried around to finish paperwork or obey the Hokage's demands, yelling and shouting their requests, woes, and troubles all the while. Kyubi once again jumped onto Naruto's shoulder and the vessel began his trek to Godime's office on the ceiling after a few chakra-enhanced hops on the wall. The workers, in their rush, never even noticed. As Naruto made it to the door to Godime's office, and flipped down to the floor, he noticed that unlike when he was young, there was only one shinobi guarding the door. Either the village was lacking in new shinobi, the new Hokage was really strong, or just really stupid. He silently hoped it was the first or the second. Konoha had no hope if their Hokage was a stupid one. The guard's eyes widened as he saw the vessel flip down from the ceiling. Who are you? What are you doing here? Another missing nin. A fool, he is. Kyubi said within the confines of Naruto's mind. Really now, if I was here to the Hokage, I wouldn't bother letting you see me, would I? Naruto said with a foxy smile as he tried to defuse the situation. Luckily, it worked to at least stun the guard. Picking his chance, the vessel strode forward and banged loudly on the door. Oh I. Anyone in there? Godaime-san. Old Man Hokage. he bellowed at the door. The guard, not in the least bit stunned now, looked on in horror and quickly evacuated the hall. As the door came crashing in, or out, depending on how you look at it, sending Naruto flying down the hall to land in with a painful sounding thud. Dumber. No one should wake a young woman from her beauty rest, shrieked the rather well-endowed blonde woman that had sent the poor vessel flying. She calmed for a moment, straightening from her punching position, to glance at the aforementioned guard who was now peeking around the corner to spot what had happened. Oi, she said more calmly this time, who the hell is he? She pointed lazily to Naruto, who was now standing to dust off his clothes, seemingly unharmed. He was laughing heartily at Kyuubi, still on his shoulder. The fox looked rather disgruntled, and was muttering a long line of curses in his mind. What's going on now? Asked a rather tired, yet familiar voice from the doorway. Naruto quickly glanced up to Old Man Hokage in surprise. The old man still stood in all of his former glory, but surely looked 10 decades older and thinner. He couldn't have much life left in him, sadly. Naruto? The ex-Hokage asked uncertainly. Naruto flashed a foxy smile. In the flesh, old man. Sandaime merely blinked in wonder, then promptly collapsed. When Sandaime woke up, for he did wake up, he found himself in his bed. At home, with Godime, her glowing blue chakra healing hands close to his heart, and Naruto of all people sitting next to his bed. Naruto? He asked once again, just to make sure. He didn't bother to rise to a sitting position, knowing he didn't have the strength to do so. The vessel rolled his eyes and nodded. Where have you been? Naruto shrugged and smiled. Up, down, and all around. This made Godime frown irritably at the lack of respect, but Sandaime merely sighed. It really was the same old Naruto he knew and, somewhat, loved. As the night dragged on, both exchanged questions, from Naruto, and stories, from Sandaime, of what happened in Konoha in more detail than the library had ever given. Naruto eventually learned that the new Godime's name was Tsunade, who seemed easily irritable and to frown a lot, but obviously loved the ex-Hokage as a teacher. But as the night bore on, Sandaime's illness began to sap away at his energy more and more. However, as a last gift to her teacher, Godime repeatedly granted her chakra to him in larger and larger quantities so he may stay alive a little longer to talk to his long-lost friend and son figure. More and more they talked, mostly of Sandaime's troubles, but as his time grew closer began to question Naruto more and more, trying his hardest to gain at least a little information about what happened to the boy over the last 6 years, with little success. Each time he pried slyly, the subject would be changed rather obviously and he would be back to square one. What have you been doing all this time? Why did you leave? He asked, trying a new approach to gain information. Time was growing short and being sly and coy to get information obviously wasn't going to work. Tsunade's blue healing chakra began to recede as she had done all she could. She said nothing about the ex-Hokage's health. Sandaime's probing, fortunately, received more of an answer from Naruto this time around, as the vessel was obviously growing tired of Sandaime's prodding and chose to merely give in. Training, mostly, with Kai Tenko. He answered, quickly fixing his mistake in wording as he absent-mindedly scratched Kyuubi's chin. The fox demon purred both aloud and in the mind from atop the vessel's shoulder. Kinda got tired of all of the village's abuse. Cold eyes aren't that welcoming. He glanced lazily at Godime, leaning back in his chair. Kyuubi quickly shifted to his master's lap. As Naruto spoke, Tsunade's eyes widened in realization. This is the Kyuubi kid? She asked. My name's Uzumaki Naruto, thanks, the vessel immediately corrected as Sandaime gave the woman a pointed glare. Don't worry, old man. I already know about the Baka Kitsune. Kyuubi mentally growled at this. You do, and you don't mind? Sandaime asked. How did you find out? I pieced things together as I got older, Naruto answered easily, as he slowly averted his eyes away from Sandaime's own, to focus on the wall behind him. The old man never noticed, but he did shift in his bed weakly at the answer. If you knew about Kyuubi, and hate how the villagers treat you, why did you come back now? You could have easily stayed away from Konoha for a good, long time, questioned Sandaime, obviously curious. You may have noticed, we lack the ability to send out Hunter Nin. Naruto's squinting eyes opened, widening in wonder for a moment, before softening. Because I love my village, he answered simply. Tsunade promptly snorted. Love this village? Ha! Sandaime frowned. Nothing good comes from this village, kid, and never will. Everyone that loves this village protecting it, Barker. Naruto nearly growled. Everyone eventually, Tsunade-san. Better to protecting it than to a coward without honor, the vessel spat. He quickly calmed himself and went on, I was once told by someone very wise that cowards many times before the deaths, but the valiant never taste of death but once. Would you be such a coward that you're not even loyal to your village? Cowards are the people that board up their homes, let horrible things happen to other people and do nothing. Let the village they grew up in go to the dogs, and let the people starve, and do nothing. If nothing is done, nothing will happen, nothing can come of nothing. Oddly enough, it seems a lot like you have been doing, old hag. Godaime's shoulders sagged slightly in shame. I came back to this village, 'cause I love it, no matter how much the villagers hate me, no matter how much people don't want me here. I will restore Konoha, even if I have to drag every villager kicking and screaming from their homes. Sandaime, old, weary, and eyes heavily lidded, smiled. I'm proud of you, Naruto. You've grown up a lot over the years. I only wish I had been there to see it, old man Hokage said softly. Naruto beamed with pride. This is the unkindest sea of all, to see one of such wisdom in such a way, Kyuubi said, finally speaking aloud as he jumped from Naruto's lap to Sandaime's bed to sit beside him, startling both Hokages in the room. Tsunade moved to the fox demon, but a piercing glare from Naruto stopped her in her tracks. Sandaime merely lay there, amazed to hear Kyuubi's voice once again. Hark, wise one, listen well. When cowards there are no comets seen, the heavens themselves blaze forth the death of princes. The heavens shall shine with thine passing, wise one, I shall see to it. Sandaime smiled wearily and gazed over to what could only be called his son figure. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Your part's over, old man Hokage, so now I'll make my part. I'll continue what you tried to do, for your sake and Konoha's, I'll revive their love and loyalty to the village, Naruto assured. I know you can do it, Naruto. Love the village and I'll content. And with that, Sandaime Hokage, survivor of the Kyuubi attack, and the attempted savior of Konoha, The heavens blazed brightly that night. The Sandaime's funeral was held not many days after his death, and was dreary and dark, as the heavens contrasted the brightness they had shown only nights before. Black clouds shadowed the buildings and already darkly clad attendants, and even Kyuubi's vibrant red-orange fur looked dim and stark in the gloom. Not many people had shown up, but more than Naruto suspected in the first place. He even recognized a few people such as Iruka, though he admitted it grudgingly. His old academy teacher looked almost exactly the same, and managed to recognize Hyuga Hinata, as much as she had changed, who was sobbing softly next to a blank-faced Hyuga branch member. The vessel turned away quickly, feeling unusually guilty at seeing someone from such a prestigious clan sobbing so adamantly. Luckily, no one had recognized Naruto, unless they were damn good at hiding it, since he had been careful to stand near the very back of the crowd. Because of this, though, and being so short, actually seeing anything was a trial. The funeral was relatively uneventful, until the infamous Uchiha Sasuke made an appearance and spit on the Sandaime's coffin, then made a hasty retreat. Naruto could only just keep himself from the arrogant boy right then. The attendants, obviously stunned, finished quickly after that. Hardly sparing the remaining attendants a glance, Naruto slowly made his way to Hokage Tower, taking the usual route on the ceiling when he got there, and waving to the guard, who nodded at him, and entered Godaime's office. Unlike his first visit, Godaime didn't end up pummeling the vessel, nor was she sleeping, but calling out commands to the many people bustling in and out of her office to organize papers and such. Naruto even saw Tsunade's assistant, Shizune, among them, whom he had met just yesterday. And the library. Konoha's library will be cleaned up and reopened, Tsunade commanded as she was struck with this inspiration, then looked up. As she noticed the vessel and Fox enter the room, her determined face turned to an amused one. Ah, Naruto, come in. At hearing these words, the assistants in the office quickly made their way out, since they knew it meant Godaime was going to have a meeting, though it also meant, if you don't hurry up and leave through the door, I'll help you leave through the window. The vessel entered quickly, taking a seat in a chair across from Godaime that was unoccupied with paperwork. How I envy thee, To have underlings listen to thee with such promptness. Unlike most, Kyuubi said, lightly whacking Naruto in the head with his tail as he came to the end of his speech. Naruto replied with a lazy punch at the fox on his shoulder, but Kyuubi deftly dodged and landed on the vessel's lap. Tsunade merely grinned as Naruto crossed his arms, with a pouting look on his face. Anyway, I'm sure you want me here to put me on a genin team, right? The vessel asked wisely after a moment. Tsunade nodded. Anyone training under a demon for 6 years is going to be at least over mid-chunin level, but I can't just grant you that rank without raising suspicions, she confirmed, her eyes sliding down at her paperwork expertly. Naruto saw this and his own eyes narrowed slightly. But that's not all, is it? The vessel said as he leaned back into the chair. The Uchiha is known for being rebellious and running from the village, and when he can't run, he leaks info to missing nin, or so I've heard. It's also rumored he helped murder his late teammate, but no one's really sure. And now, since there's an opening in the team and Kakashi's not doing his job too well, you want me to keep an eye on Uchiha. Godime blinked. Where did you learn all this? The library, Naruto answered with a foxish smile. Kyuubi merely rolled his eyes, but was mentally patting his student on the back, promising him a new jutsu later. Actually, he had helped Naruto piece it together, but had been surprised by how much his vessel had figured out on his own. Apparently, all those years in the woods had made him shrewd even among the humans, strange creatures they were. Well, I guess you caught me, admitted Tsunade, but you're not quite right. I don't want you just to keep an eye on Sasuke. I know he's responsible for the missing nin attacks, and believe he might be conspiring with Orochimaru, the Serpent Sannin. Unfortunately, I have no definite proof, so that's where your job comes in. Godime smiled slyly as she steepled her fingers beneath her chin. I want you to find proof of his treason. The villagers are in such desperate times that they're holding on to any hero figure they can, and with Sasuke's survival after the well, let's just say, even if I proposed this as Hokage, I would be the one committing treason. Naruto and Kyuubi snorted in unison. Oh, what men dare do. What men may do. What men daily do, not knowing what they do. Yeah, geez. Tsunade blinked at the vessel, wondering how he even understood the fox in the first place, then dismissed it with a shrug. Naruto blinked, then wondered aloud, I wonder who the third team member is. Haruno Sakura, Tsunade answered absent-mindedly as she handed Naruto 2 Konoha headbands. Haruno. That's not a ninja clan or well-known family. He answered, taking them and tying one around his forehead below long unruly hair, so unruly it spilled over the headband, looking oddly like Yondime's hair, and the other around Kyuubi's neck. Because her family aren't ninja by trade, Godime answered lazily. They consist mostly of scholars and, to tell the truth, while Sakura is incredibly smart, Tsunade looked away and coughed something that sounded insulting under her breath as she said this, I've heard she's weaker than the freshest academy student. Naruto, who had been stroking Kyuubi's back at the moment, froze and slowly looked up at Godime. So you're telling me, I'm on a team with a lazier who can't do his job. An insane egotistical bastard, and a worthless wench who couldn't squish an ant if she tried. The vessel twitched as Tsunade nodded, then sighed. Man. 2 out of 3 was okay, but the whole team sucks also. I was hoping there would be at least one competent ninja. He complained loudly in his mind. Frailty, thy name is woman. The fox replied, equally as loud in his mind. When do I meet them? Naruto grudgingly asked after a moment as Tsunade glanced at the clock. Well, Sasuke and Sakura probably got there an hour ago. But Kakashi is probably just arriving, soon. In 3 minutes. Once again Naruto twitched, then bolted out the door. Damn it. No way I'm going to be later than a lazier. Foolish, kittling, thou could have easily made it even jogging at thine speed in a minute, Kyuubi thought to his student as he trotted at his side, a good 15 minutes after they had left Tsunade's office. Naruto just shrugged, walking slowly as they approached the meeting place. Now, where's the fun in that? Kyuubi just groaned again. As they approached, Naruto easily picked out Sasuke, as he had seen him in many pictures in the archived newspapers in the library, and not to mention the funeral. He then picked out their sensei, Kakashi, leaning lazily on the bridge railing, reading a rather suspicious-looking book. Last, he spotted the most wonderful color of hair he had ever set eyes upon, the brightest pink, beautifully loud and brilliant. Dear God, it was wonderfully bright. As Sakura turned, however, his amazement dwindled slightly, as he wondered how such a large forehead could accompany such a wonderfully bright shade of hair. But it's just so bright. Awesome. Naruto thought loudly. Caution, Kittling, all that glisters is not gold. Kyuubi scolded. Then, to prove the fox's point, Sakura's banshee voice filled the air, and all of Naruto's remaining amazement was easily snuffed out. Idiot. It took you even longer to get here than Kakashi-sensei. You're such a AD last, she shrieked, and Kyuubi was sure his ears would be as he crouched low to the ground, covering his head with his paws. Naruto felt likewise. The growls went unheard under the banshee's voice. Sorry, Naruto said, giving a foxy grin. Sasuke scoffed and Kakashi looked on uncaring. Old Hag Hokage held Tenko and I back to talk, bout some junk. Me and Tenko, foolish Kittling, Kyuubi mentally corrected. The vessel merely rolled his eyes, then noticed an awkward silence in the group. Oh, my name's Uzumaki Naruto, and this is Tenko, he said quickly. You'll know me as Hatake Kakashi. Haruno Sakura. Sasuke scoffed. It's a liability to bring pets on ninja missions. Especially young, untrained ones, Kakashi drawled out after a moment, looking down at Kyuubi. He, of course, remembered the Kyuubi attack and knew Naruto was its vessel, so a fox tagging along with a fox demon didn't sit well with him. Naruto, hearing this, frowned angrily for a moment, then beamed brightly. Don't worry, Kakashi-san, Tenko's well trained to be a ninja, and he's probably even smarter than all of us combined. Kyuubi, now in the limelight, puffed out his chest and snorted something akin to, damn straight, but Team 7 passed it off as hearing things. Well then, let's K2 ninja with one kunai. As a team, we need to assess your abilities as a genin, and if you believe your partner is so strong, we'll see just how effective he is, Kakashi said slowly, as if talking to an idiot. Which he might have thought Naruto was. We were assigned a low C rank mission, to do as a team and find your weak points, but if Tenko is as strong as you say, you should be able to finish the mission easily on your own. Well, we'll hang behind in case you need help, of course, the Junin said with fully masked cruelty. Naruto glared at them for a moment. They seriously, undoubtedly believed that he wouldn't be able to do it. Thou art fortune's fool. Thou hast dug thine self into thine own grave, how shalt thee make thine own way out? Kyuubi asked silently to the vessel. Naruto, looking thoughtful as he gazed at the cloudy sky, paused for a moment, and then answered. It's going to be a foggy night tonight, he thought, then began to explain his general plan to the fox. As Team 7 arrived at the client's house, a rather large house, on the far side of Konoha, the man explained that he had recently inherited a fortune from his uncle, and after a thief had attempted to steal a portion of this wealth, he had grudgingly decided to get guards to protect it until it could be properly taken care of, especially since it seemed the thief was not discouraged. After hearing this, Kakashi instructed Naruto to protect the items in any way he saw fit, and Sakura and Sasuke to hide themselves carefully, and watch Naruto in case he might need help. With that the Junin puffed out of sight. Naruto and Kyuubi guarded the front door lazily. Bored, Naruto wished that damn thief would hurry the hell up to get his a kicked, as it was getting dark and, as Naruto predicted, foggy. The vessel and fox had already long since detected Sasuke in the mighty oak tree across the yard, and Sakura, not 10 feet away, in the bushes. The surroundings looked mysterious, unearthly, and even morbid, with all of the colors in the trees and grass seemingly being sucked away by the overly clouded sky. The fog floated in the air thickly, swirling around mysteriously as the breeze parted and closed it, even obscuring Sakura's vision of Naruto to a certain degree. And then, Naruto's wish was granted, as the cushioned sound of careful footsteps on grass met his ears. He looked to Kyuubi and the fox nodded, darting into the fog, as Naruto went in the opposite direction, both disappearing. And just as they disappeared, the thief made his way to the house, treading softly. He seemed to be somewhat experienced as a thief, but did not seem to know anything about ninja, since he did not bother to conceal his chakra or look anywhere but the ground for traps. But as he stalked forward, he whirled back around as he heard the soft padding of footsteps, and saw in the mist the silhouette of a decent-sized fox, red eyes glowing menacingly. Who's there? The thief called quietly, but surely. At first he wondered if he was mistaken, as the silhouette made no sound or movement, but as the fog parted he gained a clear view of the fox. Stupid fox. Get out of here. Once again, the fox said nothing as the fog naturally closed on itself again, obscuring the thief's view of the animal. Then, a breeze caught up, parting the fog once again to reveal the fox gone. The thief snorted arrogantly, and turned back to the house, to see the fox once more. Gee, get out of here. He cried quietly once more, growing slightly unsure. The fox aired its head to the side, and its chops raised, mimicking a smile that looked more like a snarl. Worry not, it said in a deep voice, hurt thee, I shall not. The thief was almost too stunned to answer. A talking fox. Hurt me. A fox hurt a human. He only realized the irony in this after he said it. Not just any fox, it said gravely, smile vanishing. CHJ. What are you? Who s sent you? The thief was hardly bothering with stealth anymore, too amazed and unnerved by the talking fox. I hide thee QB. I am messenger of Anari. After it said this, the fog rolled around the fox once more and it disappeared. Stay still. It's forbidden to mention the QB. The thief cried, whirling about wildly. He was just old enough to remember what had happened at the attack, for he was there, and had even lost a few family members to the demon fox, and though he had never met the vessel, had a deeply burrowed fear of the fox. Forbidden, came QB's voice through the mist. And who forbid it? Third Hokage. The thief looked around, afraid and terribly confused. He had heard tales of trickster Kitsune, but this was outrageous. Peace. QB's voice came from the mist. Anari has a message for thee. Shush, shut up. There is no such thing as Anari. The thief bellowed, voice cracking as he did. Once again QB appeared in the fog, head to the side in confusion. Dost thou not believe in me? He whispered. In Anari. With that, the fox darted back into the mist. Here I am, all around thee. Stay still, stay still, stay still. The thief cried desperately, eyes rolling madly. Stop playing games, trickster. Games. This is no game. Stealing from Konoha Gakka no Sato is no game. QB was exposed again, teeth bared in a silent snarl. The thief lunged at QB now, a small knife drawn, but the fox darted into the mist again. To appear immediately behind the thief through the fog. It was impossible to run that fast around him, even for a fox. I am still here. How? The thief cried, once again lunging at QB, only for him to dart into the fog once again. He looked about wildly, catching glimpses of a fox in the corners of his eyes, first at the right, then the left, then behind him. Everywhere. Because Anari is all around thee, QB called, from nowhere and everywhere at once, in the mist, in the trees, in thine dreams and worst nightmares. The thief whirled, trying to follow the fox's movement. By now he was holding back tears of terror, and had nearly wet his trousers in fear. And there, QB stilled once more, back in his original spot. The fog began to close on him again, more slowly this time, and just as it nearly covered him, he spoke. Fear me. For I come when thou least expects it, he finished, reappearing to the thief's left. The poor man's eyes widened, and the growing pull at his feet proved he had wet himself. QB fell silent as he disappeared again. Okiro. Another man ran through the mist, slowly appearing as he came. The thief, Okiro, looked at him hopelessly, stammering. What's going on? I heard voices, the new man asked quietly, with enough sense to stay quiet. Okiro continued to stammer incoherently, the various phrases such as, fox, says he's Anari, and, came from everywhere, made their way out. With a cry, Okiro darted away, stumbling as he went. Bull, there's nothing out there, the new man said quietly to himself. Idiot'll get his whooped in the morning. Thou must not punish him for telling the truth. The man's eyes shot to his right, spotting QB as the fog swirled to cover him once again. Who are you? Anari's messenger. Over there, the man muttered to himself, whirling around to where he believed the fox was. No, here, shouted QB. Growling with frustration, and letting loose a cry, the man plunged into the mist. His short cry of pain was heard a while later. The rest of the night passed quickly, and as the sun came up and the fog dissipated, Sasuke and Sakura spotted Naruto and QB sitting upon the unconscious body of the second thief. Okiro personally admitted his crimes to the Hokage the next morning, begging to be forgiven. In the morning when Kakashi asked Sasuke and Sakura how the mission went, Sakura fell silent. She, along with Okiro, had been seriously unnerved by the display. Sasuke also felt the same, but for different reasons. He had only able to see the strategy thanks to his Sharingan, creating some kind of bunchen that all looked like Kyuubi, or in Sasuke's mind, Tenko, then transforming himself to look the same, and darting around through the fog cover, unnerving the thief. It was a genius plan, using almost every natural resource around him to disable the enemy in a, unfortunately, non-violent way. But when asked how Naruto did, the Uchiha scoffed, looked away to the ground, and said the dope had to be rescued when the thief sneaked up on him and outfought him. Kakashi merely looked down at Sasuke for a moment and answered. It's disrespectful for a student to lie straight to their teacher's face, the Junin said slowly, especially when the teacher watched the entire test. Sasuke looked appalled. Kakashi then turned away, and approached Naruto, who had accepted the blatant lie, silently looking away with unrecognizable look. Kyuubi, however, was snarling and spitting loudly in protest, red eyes blazing. Congratulations, Naruto, you pass. Welcome to Team 7. Unbeknownst to his students, though, Kakashi was also slightly unnerved with his new student's display, but, once again, for other reasons. His single eye wandered from Naruto's stomach, to Kyuubi, and back and forth many times the rest of the day. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.